It's all harmless until it's not, right? Oh, this person has 1.3 million followers. Why would they try to sell me something that's not real or that I don't need? And they're very good at it.
So this is a lot of money for a lot of nonsense, and maybe even some being dangerous for you. So I would stay far, far, far away from peptides. Americans really often like a magic bullet, quick fix, as you point out. And the real secret to wellness is healthy habits.
When you think about your lifetime, you think about so many elements. You think about the food you eat, the diet you have, the exercise. There's so many parts of this whole that we think about on a daily basis, and increasingly so. There's this trend going on about longevity. It's the idea that you can live longer and better. But there's so many parts that we have to dig into to talk about that. It includes supplements, peptides, GLP-1s, exercise, etc. Let's dig into what that means.
Have questions about your healthcare and not sure where to turn? We give you unfiltered insight into how healthcare really works. This is Give It To Me Straight Talk, presented by Tampa General Hospital and our partners at USF Health Morsani College of Medicine.
Welcome to Give It To Me Straight Talk. I'm your host, Anjalee Khemlani, and we have a show for you today. The idea that we can live longer, the idea that wellness is no longer this floofy thing that you have to think about, but a real, I want to call it sciencey, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes. An entire healthcare industry is being set up around it. And Zeke, you know a little bit about that. Zeke Emanuel, who is the Vice Provost of Global Initiatives at the University of Pennsylvania, knows a little something about what's going on in the healthcare world. And you have also written a book to kind of talk about it. Eat your ice cream. So let's talk a little bit first about what is going on in the world of healthcare and health wellness. I want to know from your perspective, Zeke, because you are an absolute pro. You've followed the industry for years. You know a lot about the industry. You're a physician. So tell me from your perspective what you see as this new version, like a 2.0 of wellness that's kind of happening in this country right now.
Well, I think that we have had this resurgence of interest in wellness. There are many rivers that feed it. One is just historical. We are at a moment when the world seems a little topsy-turvy with wars, with income inequality and other concerns, lots of immigration. And people feel like the world's out of control. They don't know which way is up. And so they're going to focus on the things that they can control, and wellness happens to be one of them. The exact same thing happened between 1880 and roughly 1914. World was topsy-turvy. There was an industrial revolution. There were wars. There was immigration, income inequality, and people turned to wellness. You had new magazines about vegetarianism, a new resistance to vaccines, and interest in what people could do for their own health and wellness. There was also the founding of spas like Baden-Baden in Germany and Saratoga Springs in the United States and others. So that's one trend. Another trend is the healthcare system's become really difficult to deal with. Yep. And so people want to know what they should do to maintain their health, and they can't really consult the big healthcare industrial complex. And there are lots of people willing to give the public information, quote unquote, through their influencer status on a lot of social media channels, whether Instagram, TikTok, or what have you. And people are looking to that for guidance on how to stay healthy. And then there's a whole new set of discoveries and products as a result of those discoveries, where people do seem to see that they can be healthier. They don't have to necessarily be obese. They don't have to necessarily come down with various diseases. They can actually live a longer, healthier life. So I think those three elements come together at this moment. And as you point out, it's a huge industry. A conservative estimate, it's $1 trillion a year. A liberal estimate, it's $2 trillion in the United States and $6 trillion worldwide. So huge industry.
And it's burgeoning. Like, this is a new concept, right? We haven't necessarily talked about wellness with this lens before. And there's this idea that it is sort of recreating the haves and have-nots as a result too, right? Because you have those who are able to pay out of pocket for access to a lot of things. The debates have gone on for years about organic food versus not, and who has access to that, and how expensive it is to be healthy. And so as a result, I just wonder about what that means for our future if we're trying to have this conversation, but it's limited access.
Well, you're 100% right. A lot of the wellness influencers are selling supplements that are expensive, or fancy genetic tests, or fancy whole body MRIs, or fancy gym memberships for a lot of money. That could create a big divide between the people who have money to spend on wellness and the people who don't. Part of why I wrote my book is wellness does not require you spending a lot of money. Almost everything in the wellness space can be done reasonably. I do think you point out the one area where there probably is a serious question of cost, and that's related to food. We've had a food industry that has created junk food that is cheaper and more appealing to people who don't have a lot of resources. It's calorie intensive, so about 2 calories per gram of food, which is more than the normal at 1 calorie per gram. You have, as you point out, things like organic foods. A lot of the ultra processed foods are subsidized because the government subsidized the growing of corn or soybean or rice or wheat that go into these ultra processed foods, but does much, much less subsidizing fresh fruits and vegetables, which we know are much more important for healthy lives. And so the consequence is that in the food space, it does require more money to actually be healthy. But in almost every other space, whether social relations or exercise or sleep, it doesn't really, wellness is not about the money, it's about doing it right.
And that's the part, by the way, the tangent that I could easily spend an hour going down with you is about the subsidies of the food and how we got here. There's a very clear path of how we got here, and government subsidies for farming is part of that. But we'll leave that.
Absolutely.
We'll leave that for another episode, some other time. We'll get back to this one. In your book, I have a quote from it where you wrote, "Change is hard. If the only thing standing between us and perfect health were being told to stop drinking soda and join a running club, we would all be immortal by now." And I think that surmises, well put, by the way. I think that kind of surmises how we feel about it, because change is hard, and dedicating yourself to a lifestyle if you have access to comforts, is a little bit easier, or if out of necessity you can only buy certain things, to the food conversation just now. And so we see that as one part of the problem, but we also see in a country where access to quick fix pills, supplements, now peptides, right, is part of that equation. Talk to me about that, because I know recently you went on a little bit of a rant about peptides and how popular they are right now, and just sort of where are we going with this market?
So let me talk about two things. The first is change really does require some willpower, and trying to figure out how to get that willpower to start and then maintain it so the change becomes a habit. That's where you want to be. After about 6 weeks of doing certain things repeatedly, they become a habit. You mold your day around them, and you can then adopt a healthy habit. But the initial step does require willpower, a willpower to want to change, willpower to actually start changing, and willpower to see it for the next 6 weeks. And willpower fatigues. You just can't sustain that. If you had to force yourself to be to get on that bicycle every day for the next 30 years. It just wouldn't happen. We know that because we make New Year's resolutions, and by February, most of them are.
I was going to bring up the New Year's resolutions. You took it out of my mouth.
They're gone. And because we don't have the willpower.
Yeah.
So you need to cultivate a healthy habit. And the most important thing is don't try to do everything at once. Take one thing that is important to you. Maybe it's food, maybe it's social relations, maybe it's an exercise routine, and work on it for the next 6 or 8 weeks till it becomes a habit. A number of years ago, I didn't do yoga. Now, yoga is part of my morning routine. And if I don't do yoga, if I'm traveling and I can't do yoga, the room's not big enough or something, I feel out of sorts. And that's when, that healthy habit has taken root. Now, peptides are this, as you, I think, correctly point out, they're given as a quick fix.
Yeah.
We should mention many peptides are natural. Our body is full of natural peptides, insulin, GLP-1s,
right,
just to name 2, but we have lots of other healthy peptides that are important for having our body function. But the peptides that are being advertised and said to, reverse aging or whatever other nonsense, first of all, they come from China. They're not manufactured up to drug company safety standards. We don't know what's in them, and we have so little data about their actual health effects. And then to top it all off, wellness has got this maxing philosophy that you should, if something's good for you, you should max
out on it.
And so they've got now, peptide stacking. You don't take 1, you take 5, and that's going to max whatever it's supposed to do. The problem is we have no idea if combining them is healthy or dangerous. That hasn't been well studied in almost all cases. So this is a lot of money for a lot of nonsense, and maybe even some being dangerous for you. So I would stay far, far, far away from peptides. I know someone who is willing to experiment on almost anything. His philosophy is, if it can't hurt me, I'm going to try it. Stays way, way far away from peptides because there's just no evidence that whether it might hurt you or help you. So that would be my primary thing. Plus, they ain't cheap. They're pretty expensive. And I can't figure out why anyone would blow $500-$600 on some kind of peptide where you don't know where it's manufactured, you don't really know its effects, and you don't know its safety profile.
But haven't we seen the general public of this country be very willing to experiment? GLP-1s was one part of it. Outside of the FDA-approved versions, we saw an entire market explode of questionable products, and people were more than willing to pay the money to take it. For years and years, there's been questions about supplements and, the amount of oversight that they have from the FDA and the lack thereof, and people are still willing to take it without question. So is this actually more par for the course?
Well, I think the GLP-1 story is a little different, which is GLP-1s are very expensive. And so people were looking for alternative, quote unquote, cheaper GLP-1s. That's what attracted them. Peptides are not cheap.
Cheaper.
They're expensive. And yet people are migrating and willing to become guinea pigs for them. And I think that just tells you something about the incoherence of what people are willing to do. And supplements, I think you point out correctly, a lot of those supplements are very poorly regulated. They're not clearly overseen by the FDA. Congress took that power away from the FDA about 30 years ago. Big mistake. We've seen a lot of tainted supplements. And again, a lot of those supplements have either no data or pretty crappy data to the support. I would say multivitamins is one where there is some emerging data, and I want to be clear, some emerging data that it might help if you take it chronically over a long period of time to decrease your risk of cognitive impairment and dementia.
Wow.
And, frankly, the downsides of multivitamins are pretty low. They're very, very safe. They're not that expensive. And so it probably is something that if you want to, you can try. But I think, again, that's That's probably the best picture you have. Some people, in some circumstances, like women trying to get pregnant, need folate. Some vegans can't get vitamin B12. Some older people also may need vitamin B12 supplementation. But those are small numbers of people in special categories. For the vast majority of us, besides the multivitamin, maybe for cognitive impairment, most of those supplements irrelevant.
Fair enough. I think a lot of people need to think about that, and think about how they're addressing their health, because the idea that it's a whole holistic approach that includes exercise, includes just sort of better choices and better living, rather than just leaning more heavily on these quick fixes, is like a struggle that I think we've had as a society.
Well, Americans really often like a magic bullet, quick fix, as you point out. And the real secret to wellness is healthy habits.
Like eating your ice cream, right?
As long as you don't do it every day with big amounts and you are selective, and it helps.
Zeke, love talking to you as always. That's Zeke Emanuel, Vice Provost of Global Initiatives at University of Pennsylvania. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Take care.
Don't go anywhere. More ahead. Welcome back to the show. You're watching Give It To Me Straight Doc. I'm your host, Anjalee Khemlani, and we have a special guest for you today. So we've been talking about wellness and supplements and the longevity trend and just everything that we're thinking about as a society in terms of getting better. But I want to stick to the supplements part of it, because Abigail, you and I we should have really just been taping this the whole time, but you guys missed the best last 5 minutes ever. We'll try to do it again.
Okay, let's see if we can go back through. Okay, you're so great at this. Just keep me going.
Abigail Doherty, CEO, owner of Soul of Health. Tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are, just so that we get a baseline set here.
Okay.
Right? Of what you think about supplements and how you think about that when you're consulting, because you are a dietitian, you're a nutritionist, you tell people about this all the time. What do you tell them?
So I was like, I don't know if I'm the best person to talk about this, because I am absolutely not the person who is a supplement pusher. So I am very conservative when it comes to supplementation, recommending it, especially when it comes to if you haven't had your blood work done, if you haven't had a complete panel and know that stuff. I don't think it's the best idea to just go online and listen to whoever tell you about whatever you should be taking.
There's no problem.
Right. It's all harmless until it's not, right? So what's so hard about the supplement industry is that it's an industry. So they are also trying to make money. Now, while I'm all about, using natural ways to get healthy, I am all about go for a walk, get better sleep, eat healthy food, the things that we can do without supplementation, without having to go the medicine route. But at a certain point, you have to think we need to be doing those things first. And a lot of times people want a magic pill or a magic drink or something that's just going to make them feel better. And the reality is that's not always the case. And what you might be taking, one, might not actually be the thing that you think you're taking, or it might have other things in it. The FDA is not regulating the supplements, and there are amazing supplement companies that do third-party research, and I'm all about, finding those things out. But does everybody even need to go that route? No. And I think that people need to really do research and figure out what it is that they might be needing, because I am definitely not the person to push a supplement.
Well, but there are so many others who do, right? On social media, we see, right? This is where the problem is. The problem is that on social media, you and I will look, and as we're just casually scrolling through, I know there's a new one that keeps popping up on my feed, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I were susceptible to the advertising, I would have bought this a long time ago. Even the most innocuous stuff like protein, right? Buying protein powder, the variety that is now available. And I did buy it once because
I have protein powder at home.
The
I have certain things.
got
Right.
me. They got me with the flavor. Right. But I instantly recognized what was happening. I was like, wait, I just fell victim to this in a way that people do every day. And they don't think about themselves as victims because they are struggling in a healthcare system that doesn't have time or space for them, or they don't have the money to. And so it's just easier to do like a one shot. Let me get this all-in-one supplement. Let me get magnesium to help me sleep. Let me, like all the things that are out there that even medical professionals are on there kind of hawking this stuff or trying to do it in a way that isn't chastising, right? There are I've seen some of those who will present, the one reel that's going viral and be like, well, this is what the reality is, or like, here's how to think about it. So they're trying to kind of rein it back in. But this makes me think about us as a society and how susceptible we are. And I blame it on like a generation before. I'm going to sit on my soapbox for a second. You just get to listen to this. All right. Back in the day, GNC, which is this big supplement chain, had a commercial where they showed a woman like just ripping off the top of a tiny little pouch and just taking the pills. And they were like, this could be you. It's your easy access. You could get your pills, all you need in one packet. We'll customize it for you. Like basically the first subscription service like that, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we grew up with. But now it's everywhere, right? It's not just a TV commercial anymore. It's every third person on your feed, on your social media feed, which makes it harder to decipher, is this just a fad or is this backed? Because no one's sitting there going, oh, there's this new trend. Let me just check what the data is, right?
And you're like, you look and you're like, oh, this person has 1.3 million followers. Why would they try to sell me something that's not real or that I don't need? And they're very good at it, right? And so, I mean, I'm just like you. I know this stuff. I research this stuff. I have, gone through all the schooling and I'll still be like, oh, do I need that? And the thing is it's really easy to do that. But if you take a step back and think, what can I do just all around to get myself healthier before going to supplementation? I'm thinking sleep. Just like eating fruits and vegetables, protein from whole food sources. I am all about a protein powder if you're trying to get a little bit extra. But I'm like, when we're talking about protein, I'm like, I'm not talking about protein chips that I saw at the grocery store. This is like real beef, real chicken. You know what? Same. I like to know what's out there.
Right.
But this is not, those aren't the things that are going to be the big needle pusher. Right. It's like getting exercise, lifting weights, even having healthy relationships and a faith. Those are the things that are really going to move the needle, not, the supplement that person is pushing. And if you look at their credentials, most likely they don't have any. And the ones that do are probably being paid by the company. And again, it could be an awesome supplement. Yeah. But I would just urge people to really, check out for themselves, maybe get a full panel down and see what you might be low in, if like it's vitamin B, and or even a more comprehensive, and then go the supplementation route. Look into the supplements that you're going to get. Make sure it's third party tested. And that would be something that I would more recommend. But like across the board, I feel like people just need the basics. Like we need to get better with the basics of health and supplementation. I mean, it is an industry. So they are trying to make money and a lot of them are really expensive. So just doing things that honestly don't cost a lot of money to help yourself are a huge, huge benefit. And I would say that first in any category. But it takes more
time. It takes more time and
more time and intention. I know. But even that I find is good. I mean, before I had kids, I would have been like, eat your food slowly and really taste
like,
every bite. And I'm like, eating fast. And so it's not like all these big things that people are saying, but I do think the intention of eating whole, real foods, trying to get a little bit more sleep, going for a walk after dinner, like spending time with friends and family, like those things are going to feed your body much more than a supplement can. And if you find that you are low in something, that would be a great place to start versus starting with the influencer that's telling you what's wrong with you and then buying that thing.
But and we do have to close out soon. But
sorry,
but it's not even. I know we could have this conversation forever. But it's not just the stuff about for your health. It's also stuff like for sleep, right? People who are like, well, I'd rather be taking magnesium at night than taking a sleeping pill, which is not the wrong mentality. That like in that respect, they are trying,
right?
But it still is the like not tested part of it.
Right.
That is the issue. It's not, we're not saying don't do it, but maybe moderation is the key.
Right.
Is
Or
that the
even,
takeaway?
My big thing is like, so then think about your sleep hygiene, right? Are you on your phone right before you go to bed and then having a tough time falling asleep? Like maybe put your phone aside, half an hour, an
White
hour
noise,
before
yeah.
white noise, grab a cup of tea and a book. And like those things, again, it's hard. I feel like our lifestyle is just like, boom, it's go, go, go. And it's easier to take a pill, take a drink, grab a protein chip, I don't know. And, then to just do the thing that might be a little bit harder. But honestly, I'm like, in the long run, those things are going to make us live longer.
Yeah.
They're going to make the quality of life that we have better.
Yeah.
And those are things that I'm like, I just wish I could bottle that up and give to somebody, right?
It's like what is the Dr. Seuss one where they bottle air? Yeah, that one. It's like we're getting there.
I know. Here, that's going to be my thing, guys.
That's your new business line, is selling people the stuff that they should be buying. You should be getting
first.
Anyway.
Oh.
Well, you heard it here first. Abigail, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
I've been your host, Anjalee Khemlani. You've been watching Give It To Me Straight, Doc.
And we're here to hear from you. If you have a medical question you've been unsure about, ask us. We feature real questions from real people on the pod.
Don't forget to join us next time, and also don't forget to scan that QR code on your screen.